Okay. All right. So now we're recording. So basically, guys, for the guys who are watching this by video, this is the topology that we're going to be using here. We just mapped this out just now with the guys here on the webinar. So try to kind of have a similar setup on your home, or you guys can just pretty much follow along. So Rob's saying here, do these switches have a FIDI ports? Mine's don't. It's just regular like fast Ethernet ports. I don't have anything crazy on here. These I believe these are like the SPF cards or the little outlet sockets that you put in for your gig ports. But I'm not even using this for the lab. We're just using regular fast Ethernet right now for this. So anyway, from our last meetup, we left off with finishing with port fast. We played that with a lot actually. It took up a good chunk of our last meetup. So let's go ahead and let's jump straight into one of the other toolkits that we'll be playing with CDP. So in this case, let me jump to that. So there's a quick review, guys. This is the port fast command that we were using last meetup. This is our the command that we use on a per interface basis. So spanning tree port fast, and this will be kind of like a global command that you would do on the entire switch if you want to go ahead and enable port fast for the whole entire switch. And these guys here are pretty much like verification commands. Show spanning tree interface, and you can pretty much take a look and see on a per interface basis what's the status port fast wise. And I could even try copying and pasting one in, see what we get. And in this case, no spanning tree info is available because I probably don't have anything configured. It's been such a long time since we since we did the switch meetup. But yeah, in this case, something is here. So real quick, just to refresh all our memories because it's been a while. We'll do spanning tree port fast since we're talking per interface basis here. We get that long warning message, which is basically saying, don't put it to another layer 2 device or you'll cause a loop, potentially cause a loop. So let's run that command again. Ooh, not that command. Went out too much. And let's run that verification command. So I have port fast on here, but that's kind of funny that the show spanning tree interface 01 port fast didn't show us anything. Whereas before we saw that there's no spanning tree information here. So that's interesting. Oh, and by the way, guys, usually the way that I got these commands was off the Cisco KB. So if you guys, one of the things that I like to do anytime that I do any, like I try to like study like a new technology or something that I really don't use, I'll just go to Google and just type in, like say for example, in this case it was port fast. So I'll pretty much go to Google or Yahoo and just type in Cisco port fast, enter. And personally, I mean, you guys can maybe use this or not use this, but I'll just right click and do open new tab, open new tab, open new tab, like the first maybe 4 or 5 hits, and pretty much just go down the list and see what verification commands you have, the different ways that you could pick up these commands, different explanations, because, as I said in the last meetup, my way of explaining could suck and you guys may not like it, but maybe there's someone else online that explained it a different way. Like maybe some guy from Semantic might explain it better than me, or maybe somebody from the Cisco forums could explain it better than me. So the idea is to have try to get as many different ways of explanations as possible. So eventually that light bulb does go off when you do actually take a look at these. So that's actually where I got this command. I got off the Cisco KB, and kind of interesting that it's not showing what it should be showing because I do have spanning tree port fast on here, but I don't want to go into that right now because then we're going to go into another tangent. So Let's just jump with the BPDU guard. And basically, with the BPDU guard, this is actually a Cisco only feature. I don't know if you guys, at least I didn't when I was first going through the ccnp switch stuff. And if you guys are curious, I got a little link down here. I'll paste it into the chat window. It's kind of like Cisco's official little KB of talking about spanning tree BPDU guard. But basically, right off that, it's basically going to be our Cisco only feature, so it should not be, or there may be like another flavor of it on like say like a Juniper or a HP router or some switch or something. But pretty much that's why it's going to be on our ccnp switch curriculum. And it's kind of funny because filter and guard sound really similar to each other, and even to this day, you know, going back to, it's just something that we don't use on a daily basis, so we just tend to forget. We forget what filter and guard does. So going back to, you know, if you guys are studying ccnp switch now, or you kind of want to have a refresher, maybe like an index card, you know, put it on your cubicle wall or something, the differences between these two guys, just to kind of keep it fresh in your heads. I mean, even I don't. I mean, I need a little PowerPoint slide here to remind myself, but but filter and guard blocks a better BPDU, or this is my explanation. You guys can read the Cisco KB if you guys like, but my explanation was filter and guard blocks a better BPDU, or you can substitute this out for as a superior BPDU from taking over and electing a new root bridge. So the whole idea behind BPDU filter and guard is just to avoid another root bridge from forming on your spanning tree topology or your layer 2 topology. So this way we can kind of control who is actually going to be the root bridge for that particular VLAN instance. And here, kind of similar to what we had with PortFast, and you'll kind of see this time and time again with the different different options we have here in our STP toolkit. Both of these can actually be enabled globally and per interface basis. So there is a command where you can apply on a per interface basis, or you can kind of do like a blanket command where you kind of throw on the whole entire switch. And generally, from what I've seen, I mean, has anyone ever seen BPDU guard or filter in the real world, like at work or like on any work switches or client switches or any in production? No, not really. Okay, so that's that's kind of going once again to my point of, you know, yeah, Gerald says nope. Yeah, because for whatever reason, you know, this is maybe I'm on record. I'm on tape right now, so I can't really say things. But I don't know why. Like this, you know, all these options where, I mean, they're not really used too often. So, but point being that generally from what I've seen, I've only seen BPDU guard and filter deployed, I think like once or twice in the real world. They've always been on access switches. The idea, or at least on the access layer of your topology, you know, in your whole core aggregation, you know, access layer model, because you want to avoid the random person from going into a cubicle or a public port and, you know, let's say in the hallway or something, and trying to mess up your spanning tree topology. So generally, I mean, the once or twice time that I have seen this in the real world, it's been on, like, say your 2950 or your 3550, or AKA your, you know, user-facing switch. Probably not going to see it on your 6500, you know, up in the core. But pretty much, and one thing that I want to do as we do these, as I go through these bullets, is let's test everything out here that I'm saying. You know, let's make sure I'm not you know, BSing you guys, because I pulled this from the official Cisco KB, and what we saw of PortFast at the last meetup. Maybe I was doing it wrong. Maybe, you know, us in the meetup, we were, you know, testing it wrong, but we got different outcomes than what the KB was telling us. So let's definitely prove everything out that we do have on paper here, you know, to make sure that it is right, and two, just so that we can get used to seeing what we're supposed to see. So, so my fourth point here, my fourth little bullet here, is if I do hear BPDU, I'll put myself into a down state or an error disable state until the admin helps me or a timeout expires, which is configurable. So So this actually did happen to me one time in the field where there was a port that was down, and just talking, amongst the crowd over here in the chat over here. What are one of the ways that I could actually get a port that's in a down state or error disabled state to come back online? Let's say you guys walk into a client site and do show run interface, F01, and all of a sudden it says down, error disabled. Yep, there you go. That's one way of definitely doing it. So Jim says do a shut and then a no shut. That would definitely work. And one thing that I think that we did see at the last meetup, and maybe the video, if I rewatch my video from part 2, showed, is that it'll bring it back up, but then after it hears that BPDU again, it'll shut the port down again. So that's kind of like, going to be your little hint, that whatever's connected to that port, it's somehow, somewhere, hearing a better BPDU. Look into the startup config. Yeah, you could do that too. But the thing is, if you see a port constantly going down into that error disable state, you may want to find out what's actually connected to that port. There may be another device out there trying to kind of find out find out there's like another switch or somebody trying to actually mess around. I've never been in a case where someone actually maliciously tries to mess up your layer 2 topology. I think most of the time, all the times I've seen it's always been my mistake. You guys tell me otherwise, but and what commands were used? Rob, so basically, as Jim said, pretty much you just want to do a shut and then a no shut. And I think I had, let me go to my commands. Here, you can do a show in status. So yeah, that's, let me jump to the commands here that we're going to play with. So a couple of the verification commands that we can do, 2 that are pretty helpful. And what I'm highlighting right now is some of the verification commands that we could use for BPDU guard. But 2 of them that are pretty helpful to find out about that kind of flapping port is this guy right here, show interface status, which will give you basically the way to see who's in an error disable state. And you can take a look at error, I misspelled that. Error disable recovery. So I'm just going to be jumping out my 3560 here, and I can just do a show in status. And right now, pretty much everything seems fine. This is my lab switch here, so most of them are going to show not connected. But in this little column here, pretty much you'll see something that says error disabled. And that's once again, your hint that I'm hearing a better BPDU somewhere. And that I have either BPDU guard, and I think even filter will also give you that same output. So let me do this command here, show error recovery, and let's see what that command looks like. All right, flap values. All right, so let me just do recovery. I got no other options. Let me hit enter. So this command is also pretty good too. Right here in the bottom, we can see here it says timer interval 300 seconds. I believe that this command here will actually, after 300 seconds, which I think is 5 minutes, will re-enable that port on its own if the admin doesn't go ahead and try to do a shut and no shut on that port. And you can see over here too, if I have any, like say BPDU guard, what else we got here? UDLD. And I haven't really played with ARP inspection, but you can see if any kind of triggers have been, or any what's the word I'm looking for here? I guess options have been triggered. You'll see these set to enabled, which I believe we did see at the last meetup. And guys who are watching the video, last meetup was a few weeks ago, so that's why I'm kind of speaking vague here. But that's one kind of nice way that you can check to see when that port will actually come back online without us doing anything to it. So anyway, let's try playing with this out here. So right now, I believe we don't have any configuration on here because I usually don't save anything here. I just have a couple VLANs. And as you guys can see, there's pretty much nothing on here. It's bare bones basic. So let me jump to P3. Let me do show run here. Let's see if I have any. I just got some VLANs set up here. Okay, nothing here. I'm gonna go to P5. And okay, I got something here about BPDU transmission. I don't think that's default. I mean, this is a whole different model. This is not the 3500 series. This is the 29. So the defaults on here may be a little bit different, being that they're completely different models. So just out of curiosity, let me just do a show error disable recovery. The list is a lot shorter from what we saw on the 3560, but the timer interval is 300 seconds, which I think is 5 minutes. So as we can pretty much see here, guys, I have bare bones config. If you guys are doing this at home, it's pretty much I'm just connecting. Oh, hey Kevin, how's it going? Nice to have you here, man. Pretty much our little map over here is pretty much bare bones at this point. So I just created a couple VLANs on some of the switches here. All right, so let's try to play around with this. Let's see what we get. First, let's do. Well, first off, let's see what VLANs we do have on here. All right, so for this guy, I only have one, so I'll put him in red. See what we got here. All right, so I got a few more VLANs on here. 100, 200, which I don't think. If I don't have any ports in here, I don't think it makes a spanning tree spanning tree instance. So if I can verify that, let me just do a show spanning tree. Oh, yeah, it does actually. Okay. All right, so it does make an instance for us, even though I don't have any ports in there. So this is gonna be my PoE switch. Let me just put 100, 200, and let me jump down to my non-PoE switch, P4. And I got 100. So let's kind of do this a little real world here. Let me just kind of scatter the VLANs out a little bit. Let me not do anything for the 2950, just to see what kind of an output we get. So let's see who's actually going to be the root for one actually. So let me do show. I'll just say VLAN 1 to kind of. I'll just show VLAN 1 just so I can just see that one particular instance and not, all three. And this one is not the root bridge. Root bridge is on port 402, and I'm on the non-PoE switch, so it's going to be 2950 is going to be the root bridge for VLAN 1. So that's one nice trick that you guys can do, like when you guys have the topology. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm very visual. So I can just tell here this is going to be my root for 1. And let me just verify that. Let me just jump onto P5, which is my my 2950. And that's what I like to see. This bridge is the root. And probably too because the MAC address is probably a lot lower on this guy too. So, and I think last meetup, I'm not going to go as crazy as I went with the last meetup, but I wrote out all the MAC addresses for all the switches, and said, why this is the root bridge for this particular instance. So I can just take a look at the model number. That 2950 is probably a lot older than the 3560s I got here, so that's probably why it's going to be the root bridge for this case. But I don't have 100 and 200 on the 2950. So let's jump on one of those guys and see. Hey Angus, how's everything going, man? Okay. Show staying. Good so far, good so far. Very nice, man. Hopefully you're keeping cool. I think today's like the first really, really hot day that we've had all summer, or all 2013 so far. Alright, so let's see what we've got for 100. Okay, this bridges the root. So I'll put R for here, under 100. How melting. Yeah, so make sure, definitely make sure your AC is working here. I mean, as we speak, I got my little fan that my girlfriend dubbed Johnny 5, the robot. So I got my fan going right behind me right now. So anyway, alright, so let's see about 200. Is 200 also the root? Okay, we made it too easy. This is also the root here as well. So at least we can kind of diagram out who is the root of who, because this will actually come into play now, because when we start trying to mess around with BPDU, superior BPDUs and triggering, using the BPDU filter and guard, I want to actually try to put it on the right ports so we can try to break this whole process here. One thing that I always like, or one thing that I don't like about the books too much, is that they give you like the perfect scenario, the perfect switch, the perfect output, and they don't show you what happens when things break. So let's try to break this here. So let's say here, here are going to be our arrows in our quiver, so to speak, that we can mess around with to kind of break this topology and get some kind of syslog messages popping up. So let's do, and guys, feel free to step in and tell me what commands you want me to put in where, and if you guys have home gear at home, which I highly, I'm begging you guys, please get real equipment at home. You guys will learn so much more by doing it yourselves. But if you guys want to let me know, like, what commands you want me to put where, feel free, Alright, so let's do, what the hell, let's try that the whole thing. I'll put BPDU guard on everybody, on all the ports. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Who should we put it on? Well, Rob was here first, so Rob, you tell me. You were first in the chat, so you tell me where can we put this command here? And it's not like a pop quiz. I'm just pick any random switch. Spending P portfast BPDU guard, which should stop any kind of superior BPDUs from coming in. Rob, don't die me, man. Come on. I'll pick the server. Alright. So, let's do it on the 2950. Yeah, let's try to put it on him. Clear. This is annoying. Every time I gotta switch through switches, I gotta clear the line. So let's try it here. I'll do my config T, and this is a global command. So do copy paste. I probably misspelled it. Yeah. Alright. And one thing is, even while you guys do these commands, definitely abuse this question mark, just so that you can kind of get used to what commands you should, at what level in the hierarchy you should be to see what commands. So our ether channel is here, which, by the way, guys, if you guys are going deeper and deeper into your studies, try not to use the term ether channel. Try just to say port channel, because as of, I believe, the iOS version 15 and Nexus, they don't use the term ether channel anymore. They use the term port channel. So it'll just kind of, this way you guys don't confuse yourself going forward. This is kind of like the old way of calling, the port channel. But they kind of use interchangeably, the two terms. Loop guard, mode. So you guys can kind of get a feel of what you should be seeing at this point. BPDU guard, filter, default. Let's see. And in this case, we're going to talk about BPDU guard. And I got no other choices. I just got default. So let me just hit enter. So let me do that with my verification command. I think it was in show error disable recovery. I think it is. Okay, BPD guard is here, but it still says disabled, as it was out of the box. So, so as of right now, in theory, and let's do a show run just so we can see where this line lives on our command line here. He's going to be towards the top, near the spanning tree section here. So right now, pretty much. Well, right now, number one is the root for this. I'm not hearing anything at this point, but I'm curious if you go on the 3560 here and go, let's say, like make the priority higher for VLAN 100 on the 3560. It's going to be sending out this direction, better BPDUs, and when the PoE switch hears that, since I globally enable BPDU guard, I should start getting some ports being blocked. So that's the theory, I believe. So let's actually give it a shot. Let's jump to that 3560. Uh, 3560 P4. Okay, so I'm going to do a show spanning VLAN 100. Oh, did I have it backwards? Hold on a second. Actually, hold on a second here. Where did I... PoE... Oh, this is non-PoE. Oh. So actually, we enabled... Actually, you guys can see that. Let me put this here. We put BPDU filter on this guy. So, alright, so let me do the opposite way then. Let me erase this here. Let me send down BPDUs down the other direction. This is my non-PoE switch, so let me jump to P3. Oh, Kevin, the reason I'm clearing the lines, I'm actually using an Access server. It's a 2500 router to console into the switches, so this way I don't have to keep unplugging the console cable and going to the other switch, so I don't have to, keep getting up and doing that. All right. It's not exactly ccnp switch, but if you do a quick Google on Cisco Access server or terminal server, you'll see like a little how-to document about that. Okay, nice. All right, yeah, so you're kind of familiar with it already then. For some reason, I have to clear my lines. I could be doing it wrong, but it works. Okay, so show run here. All right, so I don't have... Alright, so let me jump to that non-PoE switch P4. Okay, cool. Thanks, man. Or did I put it? Wow, this is funny. I'm getting confused now with 3 switches here. All right, hold on. P5. Okay, so we put on P5. That BPDU filter. All right, so we put it here. So let's jump to that non-PoE switch. This is going to be line 4. So in this case, I'm going to try to overtake, and this could be like a typical scenario at work, guys. I mean, all these 3 switches have VLAN 1. Right now, that 2950 is the root bridge for VLAN 1. And let's say I introduce my 3560 here non-PoE switch, which is the guy I'm sitting on right now, and I want to advertise a better BPDU for VLAN 1. So let's try. Let's go down the list. Let me use the first guy here. Well, actually, to make it better, which is I don't have it on here, but the way we would do that, and let's hope I do remember since it's something that we don't use too much. But let's see, VLAN 1 priority. So remember, guys, going back to I think even CCNA, they talk about and more when you get into the ccnp switch, the bridge, I want to say bridge ID, is the combination between the MAC address and your priority. I think the priority was like 36,000 something by default. So we could actually try to make this a better BPDU priority to trigger something to happen on the 2950. So let's try doing something like that. Let's hit question mark priority. And let's bring it down because spanning tree lower is better. And let's quickly jump back to P5. And we should be seeing some action on P5. Let me do a show logging. Let me just show spanning tree being on 1. Okay, so I got nothing here so far. But we did say that the BPDU, we enable BPDU filter on here, and I'm no longer the root bridge here, which technically should not be happening, seeing how we put on the 2950 BPDU guard globally. So being that I advertise a lower or a better BPDU for VLAN 1 from 3560 for the non-PoE switch, let me jump back there and I should see myself with a new root bridge for VLAN 1, which was not supposed to happen. We were supposed to actually block this link here because I heard a better BPDU. So I could see this meetup being, I could see a part 5 coming. All right, so let's jump to 3560 non-PoE. I'll do show spanning, just show me. Yep, and I am now the root bridge for VLAN 1. Which technically was not supposed to happen. I lowered my priority down to 4960, and I believe it's a +1. Yeah, 4960, and then the +1 for my VLAN ID number to kind of differentiate myself from the other instances. So this is kind of weird, because according to the book, or at least the Cisco KB that I got this from, this should be enabling that BPDU guard, and if I hear BPDU that's better, I'll put myself in a down state, which I don't think we didn't have. Jump down to P5. do the show in status. Yeah, port 2 is still connected to trunk. Let's see what configuration we have on that port 2. Nothing out of the ordinary. And it's forwarding there. So that's weird. So let's use another command here. Let's enable it on that interface or on 02. Once again, abuse that question mark, BPDU guard. Enable. All right. Okay, now we got something. Receive the BPDU on port 02 with BPDU guard enabled, disabling the port. It's gone into error disabled. And now one thing is, guys, like, usually you're not gonna be on a switch and all of a sudden, oh hey, look at this, a BP. I mean, maybe you might, but I mean, chances are you probably won't be on a switch unless you have to be doing something on it, and you may miss this little messages that pop up. So definitely, hopefully your job or wherever you're at has some kind of a syslog server where you kind of keep track of these logs, and you may have like a little alert in there if you hear something that says BPDU to send like an email to like the admin, the network team. But if for whatever reason you don't, I generally use a show logging. Go away to the bottom, and you'll see these commands here again about, in this case, saying BPDU is enabled and putting it into error disabled state. So this is kind of like a way that you can kind of check out, the logs. Hopefully you have enough buffer size in there to, keep all your logs, but this will be like a big clue right here. It's literally telling you in plain English that BPDU was received on port 2 and I had BPDU guard enabled. So let's do that show error disabled recovery again. I'm curious. I think we did get this to say enabled. Let's do in status, show in status. We're getting that error disable state that I was mentioning before. So I heard it from 2. So it looks like it doesn't make, because my train of thought here, guys, was I was saying that, what, in this case now the roles have switched. This is no longer the root. The root is down here on the non-PoE switch. It looks like regardless whether you're the root bridge or not, the fact that I hear a better BPDU is going to kill that port, right? I mean, that's what this is telling me right now here. Even though I'm not the root bridge, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but when I was first kind of learning this stuff here, I thought that you have to be the root bridge, and if I hear better BPDU, I'll kill my ports. We can kind of see here, guys, that that's not the case. We can see here that even if I'm a regular switch participating in spanning tree, if I hear a better BPDU, because in this case my bridge ID is at 37,000 blah blah blah, whatever that default value is, which if you guys haven't remembered this, you will after a while. This is just one of those numbers that come up over and over and over again. But we did hard code the priority of this non-PO switch guy down here to be 4096, which is obviously lower, in this case better, than what I have right now, so I did shut that port down. Which I don't even see on here. Probably because I'm blocking it. Probably because it's in an error disable state right now. So that's actually something good to notice here, guys. I'm not seeing the link between the non-PoE switch, the 3560, and the 2950. This number 2 link is not even appearing in my spanning tree topology anymore. But if you take a look here in my show in status, I can see that's set to error disabled. So one of two. The takeaway here, over here, guys. One, don't fully rely on the show spanning tree to see any kind of loops, because you're not even gonna see it here anyway. This is just a regular block port, which is going to be your second best path to get to the root bridge. So right here, I'm seeing port 1, port 13. I'm seeing port 1, port 13. This guy's blocked right now. But not blocked in the sense that, you know, this is causing my loop and BPDU guard kicked in and killed it. But this is just normal, regular spanning tree behavior. So you may end up trying to go ahead and troubleshoot link number 13 when there's really nothing going on. This is just regular business as usual. The real issue here is port number 2 here, which you will only find out if you actually took a look at the logs and saw that, you know, pop up, or you did a show interface status and took a look and say, oh, wait a minute, what's this port here doing as shown as error disabled? So just, you know, 2 tips to kind of keep in the back of your minds. But one thing that I'm kind of still curious about here, guys, is I'm not sure why this command did work for us perfectly as, you know, we wanted it to, but for some reason when we applied it globally, it seemed to not work for some reason. So let me reverse that. Let's do a node to negate this, which should bring that port back. Actually, it's not going to bring that port back online. We could try to wait 5 minutes and, you know, try to make that port get out of that disable mode. But I'm sure, you know, you guys don't want to sit here for 5 minutes. So we can just go ahead and do a shut. Wait for little messages to pop up. And no shut. Okay, L1's up, L2's up. So we do show spanning tree VLAN 1. I should see him in there again. Wait, went back to down. Hold on a second here. Should disable. Did I... Was I a little trigger happy here? Oh yeah. Did it too fast. Okay, that looks better. I'm seeing connected. So let me do my show spanning. And he's back. And he's actually in the learning state right now. So that should go from listening to learning and eventually to forwarding, which now he's in forwarding. Perfect. But once again, guys, I'm wondering why this command is in here. And I mean, the only thing I could think of is that port fast has to be enabled on that port in order for the rest of this command to kick in here. So let me just put that in here. Could be going down the wrong path, but I'll do a clear log so I start fresh. So this seems to work perfect, but for whatever reason, this one's not taking. It's kind of interesting. I will have to play with that later and see why that is the case, or if you guys have any ideas of what you think it might be the, you know, the reason. because I am hearing better. I'm hearing over port number 2 here. I am hearing that better BPDU, the lower one. And my BPDU is higher or worse. So the idea is that that should kill that link between between these two switches, but it's not happening here. So that's kind of interesting. Let's see here. Well, let me use a couple of other commands here that we have here just so I can demo it out for you guys. One of the commands that we can use here, error disable recovery, cause BPDU guard. So let's take a look and see what that gives us here. Recovery. Enable error disable recovery for an application. Kind of sounds a little weird, but... And BPD guard. Enable a timer to recover from a BPD guard error disable state. So going back to this slide that I had here, the timeout expires is configurable. That will be this line right here, guys. So I can enable the timer. Well, actually, it's kind of two commands. One is to actually say, all right, you know what? It's kind of like a two-step process. Number one, configure so that after that 300 seconds or 5 minutes for that error disable state to actually come out of the error disable condition. And the second one is you can actually go ahead and toggle the 300 seconds to say like 400. I have this example here. So I can say interval, and once again use that question mark command, abuse it. Error disable recovery timer value. And this is where I can go ahead and change that 300 defaults to say 400. So that's going to be like 5-6 minutes or whatever it is. Way I could verify that, and I don't think in the show run it'll show you that. But let's check. Okay, it does. But another way we can do this too is that show error recovery, which I can see at the bottom here. I see that it's been changed from 300 to 400. Oh, look at this. My BPD guard is finally set to enabled. Oh, I think I see how this is read now. Okay. Once I actually use this command here to enable auto recovery of a port after 5 minutes, this is set to enable to say, hey, you know what? If BPD guard kicks in, I'll wait 400 seconds to, unshut it or to bring it back to life, and that's enabled right now. So if this was set to disabled, it will basically forever always be set to the error disable state. It would never come out of the error disable state unless the admin came around and helped me. You guys, the network engineers, the network admins went in there and made that change or, rebooted the device. So that's these commands here. Let's take a look at here. Show int f0 on status. Let's see what that command gives us here. And that's kind of like a shorter way that you would do your show interface status. Instead of seeing the whole entire output with show in status, you can just kind of fine tune to see what you're looking for, what you're looking at. So the idea is that if this F02 was still set to error disabled, you can just take a peek at that one line instead of the whole entire, all the ports on the particular switch. Beautiful. All right, so I'll email you guys later on. I'll play with this more during the week and see what's. Actually, you know what? Let's do it right now, real quick. Let me just go quick Google search. Maybe I am implementing it wrong or something. Okay. All right. So kind of what I was alluding to before. It seems to work only on port fast enable ports. So at the global level, because remember we got the two modes. You got your at the interface level and at the global level. So it can be a little confusing. You enable BPDU guard on the port fast enable ports by using the default command, which is what we used previously. Spanning tree shuts down ports that are in the port fast operational state if any BPDUs received are received on them. In your valid configuration, port fast enable ports do not receive BPDUs because you're basically, going back to, and you can kind of see down here, your core distribution access layer. You should only be connected to printers, access points, laptops, PCs. There should be no other switch popping in the picture here. So I can kind of see the reasoning behind this. Receiving a BPDU on a port fast enable means that an invalid configuration, or somebody decided to put that in there, and it will put the port into error disable state. Okay. So let's actually try to test that out real quick. So we can uncross this guy here. And I think we did try this, but we didn't see any results, but we'll try it again. Spanning tree port fast. And I believe we got rid of, okay, it's better. We got rid of the BPDU default. Okay, no we did not. Make sure that I didn't miss anything. Alright, which I did not. Let me try to shut that port down and bring it online. To kind of, wake it up again and start receiving new BPDUs or fresh ones. Interesting. All right. All right. So that's why we do these meetups here. That's interesting. We'll definitely revisit this guy here because I'm curious why he's not working the way he should be working. But pretty much we tested everybody else out and everything seems legit right now. All right. Cool. Okay, so you guys want to try anything else here before we move away from BPD guard and jump to filter? No, guess, okay. All right, so let's jump to filter here. So this is kind of similar to port fast and to BPDU guard. This one we could also enable it globally or per interface basis. But this one's a little bit different here. Usually they say don't try to use BPDU filter because you can potentially cause a loop, which I want to actually try out. Like I said, this is off the cuff. We're going to try to break this here and see what happens. But we have two options here. We can globally enable it. Well, when we do actually globally enable BPDU filter, which kind of makes it a little more confusing, we'll turn any BPDU filter port into a regular port if it hears a BPDU. Or if it's a per interface, if you enable it, on a port 1 or port 2, it's going to ignore BPDUs and actually does not send any other BPDUs. It kind of just ignores it and just keeps on operating. Which this is where they said this could cause a loop, and that's why Generally, people don't like to use BPDU filter because it could cause this loop, and you will never really know it because it won't try to shut the port down unless you have any kind of like logging, or all of a sudden you get some weird, freaky action happening on your network. Um, so here's a couple of commands here, but one thing that I do want to show before we get into these commands here is why guard over filter, which is what I mentioned previously. At least guard, when you use BPDU guard, it'll actually alert you if you have loops or a possible attack, or somebody made a mistake by putting ports into the error disable state. Whereas filter will just silently ignore the BPDUs, and you'll pretty much never know what's going on in your network. You'll be like, what's going on? Why is this happening? And you may not get any kind of fair warning. Whereas at least in guard, they try to give you a fair warning. So, but since we got a lab here, let's try to actually break this and see what happens. So let's try to do. Actually, there's a good command here. If you just taking a look at my commands slide here. Show spanning tree interface detail. Well, actually, what I'm actually looking at here is I want to see the BPDUs being sent and received. There's actually going to be a counter per interface to see what BPDUs get sent or received. So I can actually test out if I'm actually getting any BPDUs, because sometimes you may think, you know what, I mean, Jeremy Chara on the CBT Nugget said that, CBT, BPDUs get thrown around like a boomerang, but I don't know if they really, there's no counter. There's no way I can't do like show BPDU or something. Like, there's no command like that. Like, how would I really know? This is a command that you actually use to kind of help with that. So let's try to do show spanning interface. I'll say 02. Was it status? No, detail. Done. Okay, so here's my send to receive at the bottom down here. This is going to be really, really helpful if you guys are looking to see any kind of BPDUs being sent around. I do think the reason we may not be getting that, going back to our BPDU guard over here, why this command may not be working is because we're actually not receiving any BPDUs on that interface to begin with. It may be going through different ports, or I think once the election happens, there's no BPDUs being sent out for like an X amount of time. I think it's 30 minutes, I believe. I'm not positive on that, but you can see here that I'm sending a lot more BPDUs than I'm receiving right now. So let's hit this counter again. I mean, this number is jumping up 138. I mean, this almost like 25 BPDUs have been sent, but I haven't gotten anything from this link, which is kind of weird. So let's just try this. Let's try to test out. Maybe we can still test out this BPD guard global feature here. Let's try to. Actually, let me check 1 and 13 also, because we're on the 2950. Show. What am I messing up with? Oh, I had it back. Oop. Missing interface detail. All right, so okay, so we got 2,000 here. This is a lot more than I'm saying they're receiving. So port 1 on the 2950 seems to be the hotspot. Let's check out port 13. All right. We're getting 2,000 as well here. These numbers are kind of similar here. If I go to 2, I'm only sending out 2 right now. Which is kind of funny. Well, actually not really that funny, because let's do a show. I mean, right now this only has VLAN 1. So everything's forwarding right now. Port 2 is the root. I mean, the only difference I can see here right now, ports 1 and port 13, I'm seeing that number jump to 2,000. But port number 2, I'm only seeing 2 sent out. And the only difference I'm seeing between these 3 ports here is that port number 2 is a root port. Meaning that's the best way to actually get to my root bridge, which in this case is going to be my 3560 non-PoE switch. So we can kind of pretty much see from this that BPDUs are being sent downstream, or they're not being. They're sent. There's no need to send a BPDU, it seems, to the root bridge, but I'm sending it more downstream here. So if I go to the 3560 PoE, I should be seeing received. I just see this number like in the like 2,000. So let's verify that real quick. Clear line 3. This is port 1. Okay, now I'm receiving like 2,000 BPDUs. I'm sent a lot more actually. Port 3, I sent a lot to this guy, but I received 0. Oh my god, I got like different port 3s. Hold on a second here. This is probably for my different instances here. VLAN 1, 100, and 200. So in this case, I'm only interested in VLAN 1 right now. Okay, so these are blocking. And this is my PoE switch up here. So these 2 ports here are set to blocking. From this point of view. So port number 3, let's see. I've sent and received a lot of BPDUs here, alright. And just for the hell, let's take a look at the 3560 now PoE switch, because this was kind of like our silent link over here. This is our root bridge over here. So for a root bridge, it's being pretty quiet. Let's do show spanning tree detail. Oh, that's right, I don't have anything for port 1. Let's do port 2. Use the quiet line. So this is funny. It says I sent 600 BPDUs. I only received 2. Okay. And going for up to port number 3. Port 5 of fast Ethernet 03, which I'm not sure what this number here means, but I'm seeing here port number 3, which is going up to the PoE switch. I sent a bunch of BPDUs, and I barely received anything here. Which is fine. I'm talking about VLAN 1 in this case, which is what I am actually which is what I'm looking at right now. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of show you guys that, and not to be a dead horse or anything, but I think this command is really helpful for those kind of troubleshooting, and just kind of seeing that happening in real time. And another good helpful command here: show spanning tree summary totals. Right now everything's forwarding because, well, I believe on the root for 1 here. And let's see, system extend system ID. I'm seeing here is enabled. Port Port fast default, I don't have that enabled globally, so that's set to disable. Ether channel misguard is enabled and everything's set to disabled. So if I go ahead and try to do that, like port fast BPDU guard globally, let's see, spanning tree. Let's try this one, logging. And let me do that show totals again. I just want to see if that triggers that. Where's logging? Nope. Let's copy and paste this guy again here. And I'll show my spanning tree totals. So now you can see BPD guard default is enabled because up here I went ahead and enabled that command. So that's like a nice way, another verification command that you can use to actually see if that's actually enabled or not. And the thing here on the root bridge for these VLANs here. So let's just show spanning tree and see if that's the case. Okay, so this bridge is the root for everybody. The non-PoE switch. So I don't know how that happened while we were doing our, I guess, playing around with the commands here, but this is the root bridge for everybody. I'm guessing because I changed the priority. So root. And I should be pushing downstream my BPDUs. So I should be sending a lot more out than I'm getting in, which we saw with the show spanning tree interface detail. I can see here that I'm sending a lot more out than I'm actually getting in. As a matter of fact, I'm getting almost nothing in, except for port number 2 here. Because remember we were adjusting the priority. Originally, the 2950 was the root bridge, so that's probably why I received 2 here. But BPDUs flow downstream. They don't come up to my root bridge here. So I'm pushing it down this direction. So that does make sense as output of what I'm seeing here. So let's go back to our 2950, the one who's not, because according to this here, where's my port 2? I'm sending BPDUs. Okay, let's jump to 922. Alright, Kev, I'll see you later. Oh, by the way, Kev, this will be on recording, hopefully by tomorrow. So you can kind of catch the rest of it. Alright. So let me jump to clear line 5. And I don't know if we did it on here or not, but we'll do show spanning tree. Okay, so I received a bunch of BPDUs and haven't really sent anything. So still, my question is, why is this not working as it should be working? Showing trunk. I don't know if the mode here has anything to do with it. It's set to dynamic desirable. Maybe I have to hard code it. Oh, that's my tree. Don't know if that has anything to do with it. No, okay. Alright, I don't want to spend too much time on that. I'll see what I can dig up with this one here. But let's jump back to the BPDU filter. Really similar commands, but let's just play with it anyway. This time, let's jump up to, let's play the PoE switch. He's been pretty idle. He hasn't really been doing too much. So let's try the global command. Let's see if the global command for filter will work. That is P3. Okay, so let's see what's happening. Don't think the show in status is going to show me anything here. I should be, well, let me do, in this case I want to do port 3. I think he's the only port I have forwarding right now. You can kind of see here, the status is blocked, block. Port 3 is my only forwarding port right now, but let me go across the board and make sure that's the case for everybody. And in this case, I'm looking at VLAN 1. So let me try to put it on that port. Spanning tree, and what's the per interface command? Spanning tree, BPDU filter enable. Kind of similar to the guard. Enable. See what we get. Still forwarding. Well, for port 3, I am hearing a better BPDU. Maybe this is the same deal as a port fast. Let's do spanning tree port fast. No, I'm not seeing anything. Unless I try to change. Let me change the spanning tree priority here. Spanning tree VLAN 1. Actually, I'll try to make the root myself the root here, and I'll be primary. And that's weird. I haven't seen that command. This message here. Fail to make the bridge the root for VLAN 1. May be possible to make the bridge the root by setting the priority for some of these instances to 0. Alright. I think when you put it to 100, it actually makes it that it doesn't participate in spanning tree anymore. So that's funny. A priority of 1. I don't know if you've ever seen that one before. Now I'm learning, I'm listening, so I'm messing around once again with my topology here. Everything's forwarding because I'm the best now for VLAN 1. What about my other VLANs? I got VLANs 100 and 200. And for some reason, I am the best right now. This bridge is the root, so the PoE switch has become the root for everybody. So let's jump to 2950. Let's see if anything happened down there with. P5. See, have I missed any action while I have been away? And let me try to reclaim the myself as the root here. So we'll do span tree, VLAN 1, root, primary. And it is not taking it. I may play around so much with the priority, it's not letting me change it around here. So originally we did change this over here on the 2560. So let's go back to that guy who's P3. Let me just show runs just to take a look at the where on here is that. Okay, so I got priority 0 here. I mean non-PoE, that'd be P4. Oh. Let me see what I got here. Okay, so this is the guy who we originally changed the priority for, so let's take that line out. To give him back his 32,000 priority. And let's see what that did to our topology, if anything. Okay, so he's pointing to the PoE switch as the root. Now look at this, I haven't seen this command. Topology change trap for VLAN 1. Let me do another show of VLAN here. Let's see what we got. So this is kind of interesting here, guys. I'm seeing here designated here, and all of a sudden now it's set to alternate. So this command here, or this little message here, is probably telling me that the layer 2 topology has changed as BPDUs are flying around. But let's kind of verify that. I'm just curious to see what Cisco has to say about that. This means that the TCN is being sent out. This will happen when an interface status change. Let's see, anything from Cisco? And generally, guys, I mean, this is what I normally do when I get like these weird messages like this. I'll just go onto the forums here or Google it, try to figure out what caused that, because if I see it in the real world, I want to know exactly, you know, or have a good idea of what to look for. Is any good answers here? No. Alright, so it seems like the first one from Velocity Reviews is the best answer I've seen here. There's been a topology change. As kind of like the message says here, there's been a change in our topology here for VLAN 1, which is the case because I changed the 3560 back to that 32,000 priority. Okay, so let's go back to that the PoE switch. And I want to change him back to the regular. To defaults. Because I think we changed him as well. What do we do with him? Yeah, priority 0. So let's take that line out. Well, that's happening. I want to see the system logs here, and let's see what we got. Okay, it's clean here so far. Aside from that BPDU filter, which we had on here, which we say we don't want, I'm not seeing anything out of the norm here. So let's go finally to our 2950. Let's see if I missed anything while I was gone. Looks like nothing. And this bridge, so 2950 is back to being the root as we had previously. So as we can kind of saw here, the global command didn't seem to do anything for us here. But let's try to do it individually. I'm just going to throw a random test out here. I'm just going to go all the ports, set it to BPDU filter enable, and see if that could possibly cause a loop here. Because I really want to see how a loop is going to look like. I want to see if it's true that the lights supposedly go crazy on your switch. So let me do that. What do I got here? I got 3 ports. And let me just kill this port 2 to 13 because I'm not really using it right now. There we go. Okay, so just to make it cleaner and, you know, less commands for me to tap around. So there's going to be 2 there. Okay, it's good. So this is gone. So I only got 2 ports per switch. So let me go ahead and put that on all of them. And I'll be fancy. I'll use a range command. We'll go to 3. Show spanning tree. I only got 2 ports here, which is what I want to see. And it doesn't hurt if I put 2 in there. 2's not really doing anything right now anyway. Okay, so no one... I got no lights going crazy right now. The only thing I do have on here, guys, and once again, you know, I hope, you know, you guys have your own gear at home right now, but this port right now, it's shown as block. And let me just verify that again, since I have to put the command in here. Okay, now it's set to forwarding again. Okay, well, actually, it turned to green. Alright, so before actually I put in that BPDU filter enable, which is basically ignoring all BPDUs, and hopefully I'll see a broadcast storm happening here, or something, you know, I should see these counters going up like crazy. This was set to block here, right, guys? That port on the PoE switch was set to amber. When I hit this command in here and said, you know what, ignore all BPDUs, I don't want to listen to them. All of a sudden, now that port is set to green. It's amber. I'm looking at it right now. It's amber. It's green right now, and it's set to forwarding. So it looks like I am ignoring my BPDUs because it's not blocking that port anymore. Let's finish it off. Let's go to the 3560 and see if we get any crazy lights going. Alright, I don't think I have it in here. Yeah, no, I don't have it in here. Alright. Actually, yeah, okay, so. are you? This guy. And just for the hell of it, I'll do show proc CPU. Now, granted, this is I only got 3 switches, so I don't know if I'll get this CPU to spike up, as they supposedly say in the horror stories that we've heard time and time again. But actually, it just went down 4%. Okay, this is not what I was hoping for. I was hoping for my switch to catch on fire, and Okay, so everything's set to a designated port, but that doesn't really help us because this is the root bridge here. So let me jump to okay, so this is forwarding. Wait a minute. This is the PoE switch, and it says this is the root bridge. And I don't know if you guys have seen this here. This is the regular 3560, and it says this is the root bridge for VLAN 1. I don't know if you guys have seen this right now. This is the root bridge. So everybody basically thinks they're the root bridge right now. And if you go to the 2950, he should be seeing the same thing too. Show spanning tree. Yeah, he thinks he's also the root bridge also, and he's a 2950. Thinks he's the root bridge. So now, in my small 3-switch environment here, I guess, no BPDUs being blocked right now is not that big of a deal here, but the fact that everybody's the root bridge here, I'm just thinking off the cuff right now, how can I kind of, when we did that, where's my slide here? We did this test this out. We did create a loop. Everybody is the root bridge. And we use the per interface basis for the per interface command to actually enable everybody here, because we saw here, where's my slide? BPDUs will silently ignore the BPDUs and can lead to switching loops, which we kind of see here. But we know we don't have any other devices to really test it with aside from the fact that I do a show spanning tree and everybody is showing as the root bridge. Or everybody thinks they're the root bridge because they're not even listening to BPDUs. Everybody thinks they're the root bridge out of the box. And since everybody's ignoring it, they're passing that information along, nobody cares about it, everybody thinks they're the king of the hill at this point. So maybe at a future meetup, I'll see if I could make this more interesting. But we did pretty much prove this point. Show spanning tree. Let's try that actually real quick. Details. Okay, so this went from 2 to 159. And this number seems static right now. Which I'll need to... Okay, so that's one question I want to ask next time. How often does root bridge... Not even, just say, let's say switches send out BPDUs or topology change frames. because that may be the reason why we're not seeing the default or the global command. These guys here not working. Yeah, they're not even, the counters aren't even changing. Nope. All right. Nice. Okay, so I think we have room for just one more. We're going to go over root guard here for tonight. And basically, unlike the last three toolkits that we took a look at, BPDU, filter, guard, and port fast. Root guard is only, you can only do it per interface level. You can't do it globally like we did with the rest of them. Now, similar to BPDU guard, which is like you said, like as we said, which is the recommended way to, if you do want to stop BPDUs, use guard, don't use filter, as you can. We just saw in the example we just did just now. It'll disable the ports if it hits a BPDU, but unlike, oh, this may be messed up. I have the guard twice here. This may, I might have a little typo here. I'll try type in the chat window here a KB article that I did use to write this up, so I might have had a little typo here. But if you just Google this real quick, Cisco root port or root guard, you'll probably find this article here. And there's not too much to it. It's a pretty short article on root guard. So I forget which one is which. So, but it'll disable the port as long as it sends BPDUs. So I think this means filter. Oh, no, I think it's the same. Actually, my fault. So the BPDU guard, it'll disable port if it uses a BPDU, but unlike guard, it'll disable the port as long as it sends BPDUs. Once it stops sending BPDUs, it'll come back online, and I believe automatically it'll do that for us. We don't have to, you know, have any triggers or anything like that. And it's best deployed towards switches that shouldn't be the root bridge. So we'll have to, let's change this up real quick. Okay, everything is still static. The BPDUs haven't changed. So let's do, I want to disable this for everybody. Okay, so all should be well in my spanning tree world, my layer 2 world. This is a nice message here. Root change. Root change for VLAN 1. The new root is on 03. The new MAC address is this. And this is my regular PoE switch down here. My 3560. So it looks like the PoE switch is the king of the hill here for VLAN 1, according to the syslog message. So I can verify that by doing source spanning tree VLAN 1. The root ID is port 2. Doesn't make sense. New root bridge is 03. There's only 3 and 2. Why does it say port 3 if... Oh, I'm thinking maybe somewhere around here there's a one-way blocking. Okay, should be the 2950, so let me jump to... Yeah, you're the root bridge. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. Alright. For whatever reason, even though the next hop is from the 3560. You can just go through port 2 here, but it looks like it's blocking this port here. Let's jump back to that 3560 and just double check that, because I'm curious why it's going up instead of just going that one hop. So that PoE, the 3560 is 4. Okay, he's not blocking them there. Oh yeah, no, this is right. Okay, so that's weird. I'm wondering why that syslog message said that the new root port is 03 when it's not 03. Okay, there's topology change. Root 3 is in the port, is in the root port. Alright, so that's funny. But okay, either way. So let's say right now we got the 2950 being the root bridge here. Let's see, best deployed towards a switch that shouldn't be the root bridge. So let's say the guy I'm on right now, the 3560, I don't want him to be the root bridge. So best applied towards, this is the key word here, guys. I'll bold it and italicize it. So I should enable it on this port right here. So this way I don't want the 3560 to become the root bridge. So let's give that a shot. See if you have better luck than those other global commands. I guess the takeaway here is, guys, that, you know, for whatever reason, those global commands don't seem to work too well. I'll have to keep playing with it, and I guess at part 4, I'll see if I can give you guys a better explanation. We'll do here, spanning tree. I think just, I want to say guard. Spanning tree root guard. I don't have it in there. I could have an older iOS. Let me jump to spanning tree. It's not in here. I want to say it's just guard by itself, but let me. According to the documentation here, should be spanning tree root guard. I know maybe kind of small for you guys to see here, but I'm not getting that. So, what version are they talking about here? This document is not restricted to specific software or hardware versions. Okay, so Cisco KB is not helping me. How to configure Cisco root guard. You can enable this feature by using spanning tree guard root interface command. Oh, lovely. They have it backwards. So this we gotta change. Guard root. Alright, so let me go back to what I originally wanted. Alright. Spanning tree. Guard root. Root guard has been enabled on port 2. Okay, that's blunt and direct. Okay, good. So what do we have on here that we said? Show spanning tree inconsistent port. Let's try this command out here, guys. Number of inconsistent ports. Nothing right now. Show spanning tree. And see the port root inconsistent. By the way, guys, I wrote these notes a while ago, so I believe the type or the priority here should change to root inconsistent to show that the root guard has actually kicked in. So since we said here that pointing to this interface that we don't want the 3560 to become the root bridge, let's go ahead and change him to a lower priority like we did before. So we'll clear his line. Spanning tree, VLAN 1, priority, we'll make him better. 4960, that should take care of it. And he should become the root, which he is, which I like. Now, and what command was I saying here? Show spanning tree inconsistent ports. Okay, so we got something here, guys. So I triggered, just a quick recap, I triggered going out this direction saying I don't want to hear any BPDUs coming in from this port. Or basically, I mean, maybe the arrow should be the other way, actually. Shouldn't hear any BPDUs coming in this port, and if I do, that port will become an root inconsistent port, which is what I can see here. Now, will my show in status give me the same? No. Everything looks fine and well in my show in status. It still says connected. Let's see the spanning tree. You can see here now this set is port to block, and the type has been set to root inconsistent here. So that's kind of like your two hints that root guard has kicked in. Let me take a look at my show spanning tree summary totals. No, nothing about root guard in here. I think there was another guy here that was another command here that I was using. Maybe show interface status. No, that's fine. Detail. Or show spanning tree in detail. And you can see here as well that the port number 2 for VLAN 1 is broken, aka the root is inconsistent. So that's a good command to have in. Did I even have it in here? Yeah, I did have it in here. Okay. So there's a couple verification commands that you can use to see if your root guard is actually working. And once again, you want to guys point that in the direction or put it on the port that you do not want to hear BPDUs. I think this actually kind of makes a little more sense to use root guard, if anything. But the only problem is here, as you can see, you are still it's still online, kind of. I mean, granted, it is set to block, but the port is set to root inconsistent. Now, one nice test to see. I mean, I'm seeing the time. It's about 10 o'clock. So let me wrap up here. Right now, I have 2 links, right? Now, what if I kill this link right here? Will this port still say root inconsistent here? You know, let me try that out real quick. Let me just unplug that port. And let me see if if that changes anything. Nah, still set the blocking. So it looks like it's a hard block. You know, no matter what, it's not taking it. It's not going to let you get out of that state. So in essence, you isolated all the servers and workstations that you have on the 2950. It's completely blocked off from the rest of the network. Even though your backup line failed, it doesn't make a difference. It's still showing that port is blocked. Nice, nice. All right, so let me... Okay, so we went through these guys here. Beautiful. Now, all right, guys. You guys have any questions or anything you guys want to go over real quick before we wrap it up for tonight? And I'll kill the recording right now, by the way.